Alright guys, ICE operations are ramping up again, but this time they're happening much more quietly. Reports indicate that over a recent 5-day period, around 10,000 people were taken into custody as immigration enforcement expanded in cities and suburbs across the country. Officials say many of these operations are focused on sanctuary jurisdictions, where local policies limit cooperation with federal immigration authorities. Supporters argue that targeted enforcement helps remove individuals who have violated immigration laws or committed serious crimes, while critics believe these operations create fear within immigrant communities and raise concerns about civil rights.
Federal officials insist these arrests are not random sweeps, but carefully planned operations. In several documented cases, agents executed warrants for people who had already received deportation orders from immigration judges, or who allegedly had connections to criminal organizations. ICE officials maintain that their officers identify specific individuals before making arrests, and that operations are carried out under existing immigration laws passed by Congress. They argue that enforcing those laws is essential to maintaining border security and public safety, particularly when individuals with outstanding criminal charges remain inside the country.
The debate becomes even more heated when it comes to sanctuary cities. Leaders in several major cities continue to defend their policies, arguing that limiting cooperation with federal immigration authorities encourages immigrants to report crimes without fear of deportation. Federal officials strongly disagree, claiming that sanctuary policies allow dangerous offenders to remain in communities longer than they otherwise would. Supporters of stricter enforcement point to statistics showing that a significant percentage of those recently arrested had pending felony charges or prior criminal convictions, arguing that removing repeat offenders ultimately protects law-abiding residents.
Another major point of controversy is how these operations are actually carried out. Community groups say they have noticed a shift away from highly publicized workplace raids toward quieter arrests at homes, apartment complexes, traffic stops, and other everyday locations. Some activists argue that these tactics make immigrant families feel constantly watched and afraid to leave their homes. ICE officials reject accusations of racial profiling, saying arrests are based on warrants, immigration records, and investigative work, rather than ethnicity or appearance, and that officers encounter individuals from many different nationalities during enforcement actions. Videos released from several operations show officers approaching suspects calmly, identifying themselves, explaining the warrant, and taking individuals into custody without violence or confrontation. Supporters say these examples contradict claims that ICE indiscriminately sweeps innocent people off the streets. Critics respond that individual peaceful arrests do not eliminate broader concerns about the emotional impact on families or the fear created throughout immigrant neighborhoods. As a result, the same footage is often interpreted very differently, depending on one's perspective regarding immigration enforcement.
At the center of this debate is a broader disagreement about border security itself. Advocates for stronger enforcement argue that once millions of people have entered the country illegally, immigration enforcement cannot remain limited to the border and must also occur within the interior of the United States. They believe that failing to enforce immigration laws encourages additional illegal immigration and undermines the rule of law. Opponents argue that immigration reform should focus on legal pathways, humanitarian protections, and comprehensive legislation, rather than expanding detention and deportation operations across American cities. As immigration once again becomes a major political issue ahead of upcoming elections, both sides continue to frame the debate in dramatically different ways. Federal officials emphasize public safety, criminal enforcement, and the responsibility to uphold existing immigration laws, while sanctuary city leaders and immigrant advocates argue that aggressive enforcement damages communities and erodes trust in local institutions. With arrests increasing, political tensions rising, and immigration remaining one of the country's most divisive issues, the national conversation over how these laws should be enforced shows no sign of slowing down.